Hello everyone, welcome to Tutorials by Decade. My name is Decade, and in this video we are going to work on a multi-button puzzle for the dungeon. So we already have the one down here where it's just one button and we can set it to be pressed permanently, or we can set it that we have to push the box on top of it. I went ahead off camera and set up another room with 3 buttons and 3 boxes and a door. I essentially just duplicated everything from one room and just moved it into this room. I made sure to add a polygon collider and a room script to the room, as well as a camera that is constrained to that room. So that is how I set this up. So let's get to work. Before we do that, though, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, as I have videos like this coming out all the time, and I do not want you to miss anything. And yeah, now that that is out of the way, let's get to work. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is make a multi-button puzzle controller, essentially. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our dungeons and just right-click, go to Create, Mono Behavior Script, and we're going to name this exactly that, multi-button puzzle controller. And once Unity does its thing, like tiling everything you can see down there, there it goes. All right, so once Unity is done doing its thing, all messed up. All right, is that better? I think it's better. All right. So anyway, once that's too loud now, my God, or it's too soft. It can't make its mind up. I apologize if the sound in this video is all messed up, but I'll have to work on why that is. There we go. I think it's because my mic is just facing the wrong direction. Maybe? Is that the problem? Oh, let's test. Yeah, my mic's just facing the wrong direction. Let's turn that gain down a little bit. Or is that going up? That's down. All right, perfect. I think we're good now. Maybe not, but yeah, if this video is hard to hear, I apologize. Anyway, so yeah, now that we have that in there, we can open up the script and we can close all of this out, or delete all that, I mean. And then what we need to do is add a using up here. So using system.collections.generic. And then down here, we need to make an enum. So we're going to do a public enum puzzle reward mode. And in here, we're going to do open doors, spawn reward, and open doors and spawn reward. So those are the 3 states that we're going to have that as rewards if you complete the puzzle. Next, we're going to do a header, and in here we're going to do buttons. We're going to do a tooltip, the list of buttons that needs to be pressed in order to solve the puzzle. Then we're going to serialize the field, and then we're going to do a private list floor button. We're going to name it puzzle buttons. That's going to equal a new list of floor buttons. Then we're going to do another header here. So header reward behavior. Then a tooltip. What should happen when the player completes the puzzle? Serialize that field, and then private puzzle reward mode. And we're going to name it reward mode. It's going to default to puzzle reward puzzle reward mode dot open doors. That's what we want the default to be. Now that we have that, sorry, I just having a hard time getting comfortable today. We need to add the doors. So I'm gonna do header doors, and we've kind of already done a list like this for opening up a single door or a single button. I mean, so it's gonna be very similar. We're just gonna add a few things here. So what doors, if any, because we're gonna have this set up, or it might just give us a reward instead, should be opened when the puzzle is solved. Serialize that field, and then private list dungeon locked door linked doors equals new list of dungeon locked doors. Now, again, we're going to set this up where if you complete the puzzle, it could give you a reward as well. So, like, sometimes you get a key, a hard piece, something like that. So we're going to do header reward spawn, and here a tooltip. What item should be spawned, if any? Serialize that field, and we're going to do a private game object reward prefab. Then we're also going to do a tooltip where the item should spawn. And we're going to serialize that field and do a private transform reward on point. And then another tooltip here, should the item only spawn once? This is if the player, for whatever reason, completes the puzzle multiple times, which should not happen, but in rare instances that you might want that to happen, that's what this is going to be for. So we're going to serialize that field. We're going to do a private bool on reward only once. Then we're going to default that to true. And now we need another header, and we're going to do state. We're going to do tooltip. And has the puzzle already been completed? And then serialize that field and a private bool puzzle solved equals false. Lastly, we need to do a private bool reward bond, and then default that to false, but it does not need to be serialized because if the puzzle is solved, the reward should automatically spawn. So if you want to serialize it, go for it, but it is not necessary in this situation. So, some of the stuff that we're going to do here, we have technically already done when it comes to, the dungeon doors and all that stuff. But now we're doing it on a scale where it'll choose, or you will choose, if it'll open a door, if it'll spawn an item, or if it'll do both. And then you can add as many buttons as you want. You can add as many doors as you want. So let's get going on that. So what we're going to do is a private void start. And in here, we're going to do evaluate puzzle state. And that's going to give us an error. That's okay, because we have not created that yet. Next, we're going to do a public void notify button state changed. And in here, we're going to do the same thing, just evaluate puzzle state. And now let's actually create that evaluate puzzle state, so that way we get rid of those errors. So we will do private void evaluate puzzle state. Gets rid of those errors. We're going to get a couple more errors while we do this, though, but that's okay. We're going to do a bool all pressed, and we're going to equal that to are all buttons pressed. And again, that's going to give us an error because we have not created that yet. But what we're going to check is if all, how does it do that sometimes? If all pressed is true, then we're going to check if not, puzzle solved. So if all the buttons are pressed but the puzzle is not solved yet, we're going to change puzzle solved true. And then we're going to do something. We're going to do on puzzle solved. What we're going to do, we'll take care of that here shortly. But we're going to put an else after the if all pressed here. Else, if the puzzle is solved, then we're going to change the puzzle solved false. And then on puzzle unsolved. So this is if we have our buttons set up where like you have to put a box or something on them to keep them held down. So if all the buttons are pressed, we're going to solve the puzzle. But if for whatever reason we accidentally knock one of those boxes off the button, then we're going to switch back to puzzle not solved. That's all that we're doing there, really. But we got some errors here. Let's fix some of that. Let's do a private bool are all buttons pressed. And then that's not going to get rid of, oh, it is going to get rid of that error because it is a bool, but we're not returning a bool yet, which is why we have an error here. So what we're going to do first is check to see if the puzzle buttons are even there. So if puzzle buttons are null, or if the puzzle buttons dot count equals 0. If that is the case, we're going to do a debug.log warning. What is that? Debug.log warning. And then we're going to do the multi-button puzzle controller. There are no buttons. I can type, I swear. There are no buttons assigned. Then we're going to return false because, well, there's no buttons, so we can't press them. Therefore, we can't do anything. If we make it past that check, then what we're going to do is for each, and then the var for variable button in puzzle buttons, we're going to check if all those buttons are actually pressed. First, we're going to check, are the buttons there? So if buttons are null, or if not button is pressed, meaning the buttons are not pressed. All right, we're going to get an error there because we have to go into our actual buttons to fix a couple things. So ignore that error. You have to go back into a script and change something. But regardless, we're going to return false. After all of those checks have passed and we're still good to go, then we're going to return true, meaning that all the buttons have been pressed. And notice that error goes away and we're good to go there. So now we need to create our on puzzle solved. So private void on puzzle solved. And we've done one of these before at the one of the first videos I've done, but we are going to use a switch statement. And if you're not familiar with switch statements, essentially it's going to check our reward mode, and whatever mode the reward mode is in will determine what actually happens once we call on puzzle solved. So we're going to do switch and then reward mode. And we're going to do case puzzle reward mode dot open doors. And if it's open doors, we're going to open all doors. And then we're going to break. Now, we're going to get a lot of errors here because we have to create all these functions. But nonetheless, just follow along and I promise everything will be fine. The next case is going to be puzzle reward mode, spawn reward. And then we're going to spawn reward. Now, whenever you try to do this, it's going to do the spawn reward only once, so you have to go in and fix it. But we want it to look like that, spawn reward. And then we're going to break. Then we're going to do another case. It's going to be puzzle reward mode, open doors, and spawn reward. So what we'll do here is open all doors and spawn reward. And then break. And then I like to do this, but it's not necessary. We can do a default. And in here, we will do debug.log warning. I swear I can type. Multi-button puzzle controller, and then reward not set. Then break. So the default will only call if reward mode, for whatever reason, is not open doors, spawn reward, or open doors and spawn reward. To be honest with you, it should always be one of those three. But in case for whatever reason you add another state in there later and you forget to add it here, you'll get this. So there's that. But now we need to do on puzzle unsolved, which is a short one here. So private void on puzzle unsolved. And hold on, I just got a message from my wife. 1 second. She's just letting me know that my kid's getting off the bus. My wife is the bus driver, and sometimes my kid stays with her. So anyway, on puzzle solved, we're gonna do a for each var door in linked doors, and we're just gonna simply close the doors. So we're gonna check to see if door is not null. And if they're not null, then we're going to do door.close door. That way, if you accidentally step off the button or you push a box off the button, we know to close all the doors and the puzzle's technically not solved. Now we're going to do a private void open all doors. And this should look familiar because we've already done this one, but we're going to do for each var doors in linked doors if door not equal null, then door dot. I do doors? Yeah, it's supposed to be just door. Door dot open door. There we go. And lastly, we need to spawn our reward. So private void spawn reward. So first, we're going to check to see if reward prefab. Oh. Why is this reward prefab? There we go. If that is null, and our puzzle reward mode dot. No, we don't actually need this. So we just need to check to see if our reward is because we're already checking the spawn reward. We don't need to do a double check. That's me getting ahead of myself. So we just need to check to see if this is null or not. If it is, then we need to do a debug.log warning and multi-button puzzle controller. Trying to spawn reward. That. And then we just return. After that, we do if spawn reward only once and reward spawned. Then in here, we're just going to do a to do, and it is going to say add sound and or visual to let player know they already received reward. And then we're just going to return. So we can add, sound effects. We can add some sort of visual or some sort of effect, and we would do that right there. But since we haven't covered any of that yet, if you are comfortable doing it, you can go ahead and add whatever you need to add there. Otherwise, just gonna skip it, move on, come back to it later. After all that is set, we need to do a vector3 on position or POS. And then we're going to do equals reward spawn point. And then we're going to check to see if it's null. If it is not null, then we're going to do reward spawn point dot position. But if it is null, we're just going to do a transform dot position. So if we've set the reward spawn, it's going to spawn wherever we set it. If we didn't set it, it is going to spawn wherever we put our multi-button controller thing here. That is important to know. Then we're going to instantiate, which means create our reward prefab, and we're going to put it in the spawn POS, and it's going to be quaternion identity. And then lastly, we're going to do, not return, reward spawned. Oh. Then we're going to equal that to true. And that's all we're going to do for our multi-button puzzle controller here. But like I said earlier, we do need to go into our floor button and make some changes there. So if floor button is not on the list, there's this little drop down here. And then we find floor button. And what we're going to have to change is first we're going to need to link the puzzle thing to it. So we're going to do a tooltip optional multi-button puzzle controller. The reason why it's optional is because we don't have to add it if we're just doing a single button. Everything's still going to function the same if we do a single button. We just need to make some changes in here. All right. So we're going to serialize that field. We're going to do a private multi-button puzzle controller, and we're just going to name it puzzle controller. And the only other thing that we need to do with this is underneath all this, we need a public bool is pressed, and that's going to reflect pressed. And that should eliminate the error we were getting here. Oh, it's not going to eliminate it if I don't save it. So save it, come back. All right, now that error is gone here. So our multi-button puzzle controller is set. Now we just need to do a couple things in the floor button here, and then we should be good to go. So what we need to do is in press permanently, instead of doing the if link doors, blah, 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 like we were doing before, we're going to do notify state changed or handle direct doors. That's going to give us a big old error, but that is okay. We need to do the same thing and press temporarily, get rid of all of that, and do notify state changed or handle direct doors. And actually, again, this should actually be here instead. Actually, no, I was right. What am I doing? Control Z this. There we go. Because if it's not, well, you know what? No, it should be on the outside of that. I'm being really stupid right now. Forgive me. There we go. That should be there. All right, and then release temporarily should be the same. Don't need to do anything there. Oh no, we do need to do something here. So between the for each and the if statement here, we need to add another if statement. If puzzle controller is not null, meaning we are using a puzzle controller, then we do a puzzle controller dot notify button state changed. Else, after that we do else, and then we add our little curly brackets here in the for each. Then the last thing we need to do here is we need to add our notify state change or handle doors directly. So private void notify state changed or handle direct doors. That should get rid of all of our errors up there, and it looks like it did. And now what we need to do is if puzzle controller is not null, meaning it's existing and it's there, then we need puzzle controller dot notify state changed and return. If our puzzle controller is not there, then that means we're handling everything within this this script. So then we just need to do if, and like we did before, link doors not equals null. Then for each var door and link doors, if door not equals null, then door dot open door. Let me just double check my notes to make sure that is all, but I'm pretty confident that is. We don't need to change the has valid tag. We don't need to change the on trigger enter or exit. Yeah. All right. So that is everything. So now that we've got all of that down, we can go back into Unity. And you'll notice that if you go to our floor buttons here and our floor button script, you'll now notice a puzzle controller. Now for this room down here, if we go to this button, you'll notice it's there too. But I'm not going to add or change anything to this one. And you'll see that it will still work. But for these ones, first thing I'm going to do is go to the room that we want. I'm going to right click and I'm going to create an empty. And I'm just going to name this puzzle controller. You're going to have to do one of these for every single room. All right. So now what you want to do with the puzzle controller is you want to move that wherever you want the reward to spawn in case you do not spawn a reward. All right, so we'll do 21.5 and then negative 0.5. That looks good. All right. Now we're going to actually add the multi-button puzzle controller. In here, you're going to see a list of the buttons. It's empty right now because we haven't added anything. You're going to see the reward behavior. You're going to see a list of doors is empty right now because we haven't added anything. And then your reward spawn, where you can make a prefab of whatever you want and put it there to spawn a reward. The reward spawn point, you would create another empty and just put it in there, or you can just use the puzzle controller and drop that in there actually. And then spawn reward only once. Puzzle solved, you can default that to already solved if you want, but obviously we don't want to do that. That's just there for debugging purposes. But for your prefab, if you go to your prefabs, go to your items, we already have a health, a coin, and keys. So if for whatever reason you wanted to do a key, you can just drop that right there. Then we'll change reward mode to open doors and spawn reward. We do need to add the buttons in there, so we click and drag. There's button 1, there's button 2, there's button 3, and any doors that we want to open, we'll just grab this one dungeon door and drop that there. Now what we do need to do is we need to go back to each button and complete the link and add the puzzle controller to this. If you forget to do this, none of this will work, and you'll be stuck scratching your head for a few minutes until you figure it out, like I had to do when I was testing this. But now that we have all of this set up, what we're going to do is we're going to save this scene. We're going to go to our scenes, and we're going to go to our test scene. And we're going to hit play. Now, if you followed along last video, you should have a debug. If not, then you will have to add one. But we're just going to hit our little debug menu and just click Go to Dungeon. And now we are going to go through our dungeon. So, as I said before, we didn't change this button. And you'll notice if I step on it, it opens. I get off of it, it closes. So we didn't do anything, and this still works. So we get that guy on there. Now you'll notice I step on these buttons, nothing happens because we need all 3 of these. So we're going to push that box there, push that box there, and push that box there. And notice the door opens and we have a key. We picked up the key and now we can move on to the next room. Now, you might be asking, well, what if I want the buttons to stay pressed and not have to push boxes or anything on them? Well, what we do is we go back in, we go to each individual button, and we just click on stay pressed. So we'll do that, and do that. We will save the scene, go back to our test scene, and then we will hit play. We will pull up our debug menu and just teleport to the dungeon. These little guys out of the way. Push you there. And now I can just step on these. And look at that, the door opens and we get our key. So that is how we're going to do a multi-button puzzle. Again, you can add as many buttons as you want. You can change them so they stay permanently pressed if you step on them, or you can change them so that way you move these boxes. Either way, that accomplishes our goal for today. One of the future upcoming videos, I'm going to address an issue that I'm going to show you right now. These boxes, if you push them up against the wall, you have no way of getting them off the wall. I mean, you can if you do it just right, but now that I'm in this corner, you're kind of stuck, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So I'm going to add a pull mechanic where you can hold in a certain button and pull the boxes instead of just pushing them. I'm not going to do that. I may do that next video. I may not do that next video. Either way, I'm going to do it in our dungeon videos here. But just so you know what I have lined up. I have we're going to have a room where there's going to be multiple enemies, and one of the enemies is carrying a key that opens the door, and we have to kill that enemy. It's very similar to what we've already done, but we're just going to do things a little bit differently to make it more like The Legend of Zelda. Then I'm going to add the pull mechanism, or the mechanic, I should say, so that way you can pull these boxes. And then lastly, I'm also going to add branching dialogue. Now, some of you are going to get real excited about that. I'm going to start out real basic, where you're going to have a series of questions, and you're going to answer the questions. If you get it right, the door opens. If you get it wrong, you got to start all over again. But we're going to grow that eventually into a full-on morality system. And we're also going to have it so that way it remembers what choices you make. So that way later in the game, if you go back and talk to that person again, they may treat you differently. It's going to go kind of with the morality system, but it's also going to go with an overall memory system. So yeah, we're going to build a complete game. And in all technicalities, by the definition of what a video game is, we're awfully close to a so-called complete game. But for now, I'm going to end this video here. If you liked it, or if you learned anything from it, make sure you give it the big old thumbs up. It does help me out, and I appreciate it. Also, as I say in every video, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, as I have videos like this coming out all the time, and I do not want you to miss anything. If you do, that's a lot of videos to go back and have to rewatch, and that's not fun. But now that that's all out of the way, as always, thank you. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.